Hi everyone, good morning. A very warm welcome to the William J. Clinton Leadership Institute at our virtual Riddle Hall. My name is Sue Burns and we're delighted to have you on with us today for our COVID-19 support webinar series presented in association with the Chief Executives Club at Queen's. A special warm welcome goes out to everyone joining us from overseas. We set up the series back in May during the first lockdown, and it's hard to believe that we're now in month 7 of the pandemic here in Northern Ireland. We've all become really used to our different way of life and working over the past few months. For those of you that are new to the Leadership Institute, we were founded in 2011 out of Queen's Management School, a globally renowned centre of excellence and research. The Leadership Institute specialises in executive education, and we offer a wide range of leadership development programs and solutions. We work with organisations all over the world to boost leadership capacity, innovation, resilience, and performance. We can all see that strong leadership has never been more important as we navigate through the disruption and onto recovery and regeneration in the wake of the COVID-19 pandemic. Whilst the prospect of a global pandemic has been expected for many years, no one could have predicted the timing or the nature of the coronavirus crisis. Today's webinar, COVID-19 and Cities, Not Just a Temporary Crisis, a Permanent Disruptor, features our guests Deborah Colville, leader of Smart Belfast, Belfast City Council, and Dr. Philippe Bouvier, joining us from INREGU Lyon in France, who will look at the impact of the crisis on our cities and examine the trends before and after the pandemic. Deborah is Belfast City Innovation Manager and leads the Smart Belfast programme. Deborah works with government, universities and industry on an extensive innovation agenda with the aim of growing Belfast's economy and tackling urban challenges. She has led several successful bids, including a multi-million-pound bid for digital infrastructure that includes a smart district and an urban sandbox in the heart of the city. In her previous role as Belfast City Council Digital Portfolio Manager, Deborah led the development of the digital and transformation strategy, overseeing software engineering processes in a large IT department. Deborah has delivered significant business transformation and organisational change programmes across council departments and services. Deborah is also a member of many panels and boards, including a recent appointment to the UK Government Expert Advisory Group on Smart Cities Connected Places, DCMS, the UK Government's BSI City Standards Board. She's a member of the G20 Global Smart Cities Alliance, the World Economic Forum Programme Board, and the NI Open Data Board and All Ireland Smart Cities Board. Dr. Philippe Bouvier is the president of INREGU, the French National Institute in Urban Management, located in Lyon. He is also non-executive chairman of the International Eureka Education Group, located in London. Philippe is a professor in urban studies, urban digital transformation, urban strategy and investment, and urban tech innovation. A keynote and TEDx speaker, Philippe is the author of numerous articles, serving as a recognized expert at the European Commission in security risk management. Philippe has delivered executive education related to innovation, strategy, urban management, and COVID-19 impacts in Europe, the Middle East, and India, working with a diverse range of organizations and municipal entities. It's great to have you with us today, Deborah and Philippe. Our pleasure to have you on board. To everyone that's joining us this morning, you're very welcome. If you could, for best effect, just reset your Zoom view so that you have the speakers on the side panel. That will just really help with today's slides. And Deborah, if we first look at our home city of Belfast, how is the current situation relating to the COVID-19 pandemic?
Well, hello, Sue, and thank you for inviting me here today. And good morning, everyone. You know, I think we can look at this map just to give you a little bit of background, first of all, about Belfast, and for those of you who are on the session this morning from around the world. Belfast is the capital of Northern Ireland. It's the second largest city on the island of Ireland. And we often refer to Belfast as a super connected city, both in terms of its location and also its structure, its infrastructure. And it's ideally situated, as you can see here, between Europe and the US, and very well connected to London, an hour, and by air to London, 2 hours by road, and by rail to Dublin. And the city itself is home to about 1 million people, and with just over 330,000 people living in the city core. And the city gained its wealth and reputation during the 19th and early 20th century, when it was a global powerhouse for shipbuilding, linen production, and rope making. And of course, we built the Titanic. And like many European cities, we went through a painful period of deindustrialization. But however, in recent decades, we have very successfully reimagined ourselves as a city with a modern economy built on its booming service sectors. For example, we have the second fastest growing knowledge economy in the UK. We've been hugely successful in attracting foreign direct investment, with nearly 1,000 international companies choosing to set up their business and operations here in Belfast. And our local companies and our 2 universities have been building serious strengths in important growth sectors such as health and life sciences, fintech, software development, filmmaking, and digital media. And we also have important clusters in the field of AI, with significant work on core data science, cybersecurity, genomics, robotics, and computation vision. And the workforce that we have here is among the best educated in the world. And we have a very young population, and 43% of people here are under the age of 30. And over 70% of our university research in both universities is world leading and internationally excellent. And Queen's, of course, is a Russell Group university ranked in one of the top 1% of universities in the world. So with over 42,000 students studying in our main universities and our Metropolitan College, this provides a really strong talent pool across a range of sectors. And there's been huge investment in our city over the past 10 years. The face and the landscape of the city has transformed with significant investment from public and private sector. So Sue has asked me to very briefly touch on how the pandemic has affected our city. Well, like all cities globally, there has been significant impact as we have seen lockdown, we've seen many restrictions, of course, since March. So less people traveling into work, into the city, shops closing due to restrictions. There have been issues with international supply chains, and that's forcing our businesses to think about sourcing locally. And of course, that brings about opportunities as well for local production and nearshoring. And of course, tourism has been greatly affected with less international travel. But on the flip side of that as well, there are opportunities that will emerge, such as preference towards staycations and tourism offerings for the home market. And there's been huge activity and collaborative working from our businesses, from our universities, from our private sector, working together hand in glove with the health services and manufacturing and delivering PPE, data analytics, and other much needed support to the health service. I think one of the most notable impacts has been how businesses have been embracing new working behaviours and technologies. So the current crisis has created a significant impetus to really push many of our businesses into adopting online working practices. The types of changes in behaviour that would normally take years to achieve has been realised in just a few short weeks. And for some of these businesses that have been able to bring about these changes, it can create the opportunity to become much more efficient and potentially to open up new markets, as well as help them to develop new innovative business operating models. Now, Belfast City Council plays a significant leadership and convening role in the city, bringing together key partners, working with communities to respond to the emergency situation, and ensuring that the necessary measures are taken to keep citizens safe, whilst at the same time retaining our critical services. And one of the outcomes of this work over the recent months has been to produce the recovery plan for the city, working with many partners in the city. And of course, that focuses very much on how we ensure our city is safe, and how we can future-proof the city so that it can still remain vibrant and connected, and looking at how we totally redesign and transform our services going forward so that services can be availed of and delivered in a whole range of new ways. And of course, working on the ground with local communities, addressing local needs and building on local strengths. And of course, working with partners to ensure that we can create jobs and support Belfast residents to access those jobs and much needed employment. And in relation to the environment, we're bringing forward a resilience plan for the city. So driving forward on the sustainable and climate resilient targets, decarbonisation, and supporting our economy, creating jobs, protecting communities and improving health and well-being, and enhancing the livability of our city for the future. But one of the cornerstones of the plan going forward is focusing on digital innovation. And that's really the focus of the rest of my presentation this morning. So supporting the development and the adoption of transformative and leading edge technologies to deliver on all of these plans. And by investing in our digital infrastructure to facilitate new job creation and to attract talent, support our entrepreneurs and bring investors into the city.
That's great, Deborah. Philippe, over to you. Can pandemics have positive impacts on cities?
Oops, I was muted. Good day, everyone. Our history is paved with famous pandemics, you know. So let's highlight some of them. The plague, the Black Death in the 14th century, it killed 200 million people, and 60% of Europe died. Today, we still have 600 dying people cases around the world. Smallpox, it has been eradicated, thanks in the 1980, but it killed tens of millions of people in the past. Cholera, you know, this is due to poor sanitation, contaminated drinking water. And in the UK, I think everyone will remember the outbreak of cholera in the 19th century, you know, with the Thames River, with the Great Stink in 1858. And this actually gave us this innovation of the sewage system of London with Bajazet. We can talk also about the Spanish flu in 1918. During 4 months, it killed 50 million people. And we can put this in comparison with the number of people dead in the World War I, which was 20 million people. So until the end, actually, until the end of the 19th century, cities where we could call them death traps. But these pandemics have been creating major disruptions in our cities and in our society and in our responses to outbreaks. For example, government health board, quarantine of people and goods, no gathering, no public gathering, state power over individual lives. Does that ring a bell to you? Because in fact, these measures have been very popular all around the world during this COVID-19 pandemic. And you know what? These measures have been invented in the 19th century, in the 14th century, you know, so that was very long time ago. In terms of innovations, all these pandemics, with all these deaths, actually created a labor shortage. So this boosted technological innovations. Medical innovations created antibiotics and vaccines. Urban infrastructures also were innovated with new sewage systems, especially in London, clean water pumping systems, water drainage in agriculture. So these innovations were very important for the development of our cities today. And in our cities, we created parks because we wanted clean air. We wanted to have large larger streets for social distancing. Also, we created housing reforms to limit crowded places, living places, especially during the industrial revolutions. And also, it was important to get rid of all stagnant water inside the city, but also in the surrounding of the city because of the potential malaria or cholera challenges. In terms of societal impacts, during pandemics, it was very important to educate people and also for the governments to communicate on their responses, because our civic capital was challenged. And we have learned that there is a level of acceptance, of social acceptance of all these constraints, all these measures that were imposed on the society. And this, of course, created some psychological traumas. Also, we can notice that during pandemics, myth and conspiracy theories have emerged. And I could ask, have you heard any of them during the COVID-19? So, in fact, thanks to these pandemics, we have paved the way for larger, more livable and prosperous cities. In the medieval cities, they were smaller cities, 10,000 to 100,000 people, because they were keep dying. People were keep dying. So it was difficult to sustain a larger amount. And it's only until recently, in 1960s, that we are reaching to 1 billion people living in cities in this world. So thanks to our previous pandemics, we can live in this great world today.
So Philippe, what has been the global trend in the development of cities, and where are we now?
In the medieval age, city-states, tribes and countries, were fighting ruthlessly. So people were moving to the cities to be protected. They were looking for safety. And if I jump into the 1950s in the modern world, the modern city, this is after the war, and people are looking for entertainment. They want to go to the restaurant. They want to have coffee with their friends. They are looking for a better quality of life. In the 70s, something great happened. We invented the fiber optics. And with the fiber optics, we developed broadband communications. And with broadband communications, we created internet. So cities adapted this technology, and they found that technology can actually fuel innovation and create jobs. This is the time of the digital city in the 70s. Then in 2000, in the year 2000s, we have 90s, 2000s, we have multiple names of cities which are flourishing, like the intelligent city, economic city, green city, ubiquitous city, world city, etc. It was a little bit confusing to understand actually what is the greatest model for the future city. So we are in a world where communications is intensified and social networks are being created. So in 2009 came with this new concept, with a new value proposition, the smart city. And the value proposition of the smart city was to say, if you use technology in your city, you can solve any challenges. This will help you to solve your challenges, your urban challenges. So what have we reached today in 2020? What have we created? Breathing can kill now in 2020. Kissing can kill in 2020. And you know how we love kissing in France. So what have we missed? There is a question we have to ask. What have we missed in the development of our cities?
Thank you, Philippe. Deborah, we won't ask you to answer any questions about kissing in Belfast. But what is Belfast doing to ensure it becomes a smart and sustainable city? And which initiatives have you launched in recent years?
Yes, thank you, Sue. Yes, well, look, for us, the core of the smart cities concept is the centrality of cities to the global economy. The network effect of cities and city regions and their ability to act as a catalyst for innovation. They are the ultimate innovation cluster. Of course, on the flip side of the coin, many of the challenges of the 21st century, whether it's climate change, inequality, stagnant global economic growth, they are for the most part urban challenges. And 3 years ago, Belfast City Council decided to invest and drive forward a Smart Belfast programme. There was a recognition by our politicians at the time and our chief executive that to deliver better outcomes for our citizens and deliver on the city's vision, we needed to start to think differently about how we design and deliver our programmes and interventions. And in particular, we needed to find ways to tap into the huge potential of smart technologies and data science. And we recognised that the problems in our city and the aspirations that we have, they're not owned by any one institution, by any one sector or government department. So it's important to drive collaborative innovation working across our sectors. In addition to this, of course, there are a number of disruptive technologies coming to maturity over the next 5 to 10 years. And these technologies will radically change the nature of how we deliver our services, how we work, how we live our lives. And technologies such as robotics, artificial intelligence, virtual and augmented reality, blockchain, edge computing, use of drones, to name but a few. And the city needs, and city leaders need to understand the potential in these technologies and understand how they can be used to deliver services going forward. So the Smart Belfast programme was really about testing all of these ideas. And we've driven forward the programme for the past 2.5 years. It was very focused on challenges, defining and articulating key problems and challenges that we have in our city. So that's the reverse of what we would normally have done. We weren't going to specify the solution, but rather the problem we wanted to solve. We engaged our city innovators and we drew from the private sector, we drew from academia to harness and channel their creativity and research excellence to solve a whole range of city challenges. And we unlocked data across council departments, across public sector departments, across the voluntary sector and also private sector data as well. And of course, we used robust, agile delivery mechanisms, looking at things like pre-commercial procurement, collective or collaborative R&D approaches, as well as SBRIs. And over the past 2.5 years, here's just a wee bit of a summary of some of the things that we've delivered. 47 innovation projects. We leveraged £10.5 million into the city to deliver these programmes, and they were all delivered in collaboration with the universities, businesses and entrepreneurs. We rolled out the first free to use IoT network, not just across Belfast, but across most of Northern Ireland. We delivered a very successful SBRI competition, recognised in the UK Industrial Strategy. And as a result, we became the first customer of that business and are now using artificial intelligence and machine learning to understand our commercial rate base. And prior to COVID, this enabled us to reap in millions of pounds in efficiencies. We've worked and are still working with the Department for Justice, Dublin City Council, 5 Belfast SMEs to develop and trial innovative solutions in our parks and open spaces. Using technologies such as IoT, Wi-Fi, connection data, intelligent monitoring, and cameras with artificial intelligence, computer vision and edge computing. We developed a community currency app which rewarded citizens for using parks and open spaces. And we're delivering pilots in relation to testing more sustainable last mile delivery methods, working with local couriers and working with large logistics organisations. And of course, that's all very important, learning the lessons from those projects going forward. And part of a collaborative programme, we worked with UK Space Agency, Space Catapult, Bristol University, Queen's University, Belfast Trust and local SMEs to understand the impact of air pollution and the use of data to put real-time information into the hands of clinicians and patients with respiratory disease to be able to make better choices about how they and when they move around the city. And one of the key successes of the programme was to successfully gain membership to the Rockefeller 100 Resilient Cities programme. And we attracted $1 million grant which enabled us to establish a Commissioner for Resilience for the city to develop and drive forward a new resilience strategy, which is now being published. So going forward, we have looked at everything that we have done and we want to build on everything that we have learned. We have a good understanding of what works in a collaborative environment in the city, what doesn't work. We've proven technology that may work in one environment, but may not work in another environment. And we've gained experience of the innovation process itself and the use of collaborative partner agreements and arrangements. And having proven the success of the programme, we've now expanded the vision to a whole new level. So according to McKinsey, cities need to be setting in place the conditions to enable rapid innovation, testing and deployment of new solutions. And that's exactly what we are doing with our plans going forward. And Belfast City Council, together with key partners in the city, including Queen's University, and along with a newly appointed Digital Innovation Commissioner, have come together to put this approach at the top of our city's agenda and to not only address the major societal challenges, as I've previously outlined, but also to use this approach to fuel innovation activity to support the economy. And of course, we have a great starting point for these ambitions because Belfast has a strong digital sector. And on the next slide there, you can see that Belfast is the #1 global destination for financial technology investment. We're the #1 European destination city for new medical software development projects. And we're the #1 international investment location for US cybersecurity development projects. And we are the second fastest growing knowledge economy in the UK. So we have a lot to shout about and we have a lot to build on. Our digital innovation strategy focuses on a number of key challenges in the city. And we are using these as a spur to innovation activity. It seeks to retain and build on our existing strengths, but at the same time, developing opportunities to grow new clusters across a range of sectors. And our plan is to focus on these 3 grand societal challenges: improving the health and well-being of our cities, delivering on sustainable and resilience goals such as zero carbon, and a focus on AI and big data. Because we believe that technologies such as AI will radically change the nature of our city over the course of the next 20 years. And we're using the mission-orientated approach driven by Mariana Mazzucato at University College London across these 3 challenge areas to define portfolios of missions with bold targets to be delivered in these challenge themes. So we have all seen the power of setting challenges and having targeted missions in recent months as the world came together to get behind the race to develop a vaccine for COVID-19. And that's exactly the process and approach that we are taking going forward.
Philippe, do you think that the current pandemic will disrupt the development of our future cities?
To answer these questions, let's start with the World Health Organization. So they said the world does not have the capacity to handle epidemics. Countries and cities have fragile health systems. I think we all have experienced this. But most important, pandemics are not going away. A pandemic might come back from an old source, like influenza, or emerge from a new source, like the SARS-CoV-2. So, COVID-19 pandemic actually should be taken as a wake-up call. Because you have to realize that cities have created the best conditions for new infectious disease to surface with global travel, climate change, urbanization, and also human-animal contacts. If you remember, in the 14th century, it took few years for the plague to become a pandemic. In the 18th century, the cholera took 2 years to go from India to UK, and then it took 6 months to go from India to UK when the train was operated. In the 1918 Spanish flu, it took 4 months to be spread from the US to the entire world. With COVID-19, it just takes a matter of hours. We understand with global travel that we can travel halfway across the world, the globe, faster than a virus can incubate. So will it be possible to prevent any spread in the future? In the 90s, we were 1 billion travelers by air. Nowadays, we are more than 4 billion. And we have millions of flights taking off every month. Infectious disease due to global travel could spread very fast in 2020. Urbanization. In the 50s, only 30% of the world were living in cities. Now, more than half of the population lives in cities. And it is planned that in 2050, that more than 68% will be living in cities. With urbanization, we have very big challenges, especially with urban infrastructures, housing, sanitation, transport, and healthcare facilities. Because the problem is that urbanization is faster than we can ever build those infrastructures. So this is creating a risk of increasing number of people living in overcrowded places and unhygienic environments. Infectious disease could thrive because of this situation. And also, because of the global warming, insects carrying disease are spreading more widely and their numbers are increasing. Insects from the tropical zone, they can move up north and maybe come to Northern Ireland, Climate migrants, they could spread illnesses or they could become vulnerable to infectious disease if they didn't have it before coming. In the permafrost in Siberia, we have ancient viruses which are buried. What happens with the melting of the permafrost? Also, with the climate change, we have risk of flooding, which will outbreak waterborne diseases like cholera. So new infectious disease could emerge due to climate change. And also, you know that we have increased contacts between human, wildlife, and livestock. And these contacts are potentially creating new disease, zoonotic disease. And these diseases, they could cause potentially lethal unknowns. And a majority of the recent epidemics were originated this way. So lethal zoonotic infectious disease could surface due to human contact animal. So it seems that pandemics are accelerating. We have more and more outbreaks. And if you look at the different national health boards in different countries, you can see them. We don't take usually interest in this, but if you look at them, you will see that we have a lot and more. So this suggests in the future, cities should be more prepared. So it is time for change. COVID-19 is a period full of uncertainty, but it was neither unprecedented nor unpredictable. How cities should respond to this disruption?
Thanks, Philippe. Deborah, or Philippe, what do you think are the new trends in cities due to COVID-19? Where should we invest and where should we innovate?
Pandemic is a separating force. We have less information and we're complaining about it, and we have less bonds, social bonds. So we need to adapt fast to this situation. With this pandemic, there are two main trends that we can observe, which are highlighted by the COVID-19 pandemic. The first one is related to the environment. If you have noticed, in Europe, in May, June, we had many elections, and a lot of green parties won these elections. In China and also Singapore, the government is asking people to grow crops on their balconies. Countries also are very happy to share that their carbon emissions have dropped significantly during this crisis. And even more recently, the new US president wants to rejoin the Paris climate deal on day one. So we can notice that there is a transition toward something that is more ecological and environmental. The second trend, you have noticed it, is related to online services. Everything tries to migrate digital and online. So the digital revolution is moving fast forward. We can believe that this pandemic will actually catapult the world into even more advanced technology, because this innovation will emerge from real needs and experience. To give you an example, this is a recent study last month from McKinsey about how the companies have digitalized some of their activities. So I would just comment on the first line, which is they were planning to move remote, to promote remote working in the next 454 days. They say they were planning this, but due to the COVID-19, that change just moved to 10 and a half days. And many other digitized activities were actually moved forward, fast forward, 20 to 25 times faster than what they were planned. So where are the areas where we should focus on innovation and investment? Technology, healthcare, climate change, urban governance, urban management, and of course, business models. Because in this crisis, we have experienced the domino effects. We are now more aware that a city is a systemic environment. It means that a new paradigm must be found to define the role of the city. But this actually would be the need for another seminar in itself. So what are the changes that we can observe? Remote working. Of course, that is the new normal everywhere in the world. Virtual organizations, but also we are downsizing the office space. So many companies have said to their employees, don't come back, So how are we going to improve this work from home experience? There is a new economy, online delivery-based services economy, which is booming now. We have this creation of all these new distance services, online education, online support, etc., contactless payment, which is becoming just the normal norm. So what new distance services should we create with this new situation? Our supply chain has been challenged because we have just realized how little is made locally. Food and medicine supply chains, for example. So how are we going to adapt our business models to be more resilient to global supply chain? We also have noticed the mutation of social relations, new social norms, and also the personalizations of citizens. Have you noticed that your digital avatar knows you better than you do? That is something interesting. We need to keep concerned with that. We need to be concerned with that. We will also need to adapt fast to new mobility norms, new work experience, new social norms. So there is a need to rebuild a safe and connected city. So what is the new role of the city? Some cities, actually, they start to think of the hour city or the 1 minute city or the 15 minutes community. The objective is to find how to be more resilient to face the next pandemic or climate change crisis. So, cities are organized as community networks. So there is the conventional autonomy where you live in one part of the city, you work in another part, you go for entertainment and shopping in another part, and then you travel between these different parts. This is the conventional autonomy. But there is also another type of community network, which is the functional autonomy, where all local resources are accessible wherever you are. And this is how you can actually define or plan cities as districts, District 1, District 2. And this type of organization is easier to quarantine when it is needed. And we have seen this in China. So this is the example of the 20-minute neighborhood, which is proposed in the Victoria State government in Australia. So so wherever you live, within 20 minutes, you should have all the facilities to have a decent life, a sustainable living. Your homes, a new spatial organization in homes will be expected. We are spending more and more times in our homes. So this home needs to be more flexible. It will be adapted. We are working also from home. So this space will be changed in the future. Office spaces also will be checked up. We will rethink how we are going to occupy those spaces, how we interact with the space, and how we interact with other people at work. So the digital revolutions will continue and will continue on a fast-forward track. New policies will have to be defined, new sensors, at home sensors, because we need to do telemedicine. So the doctors need to check your blood pressure, need to check different aspects of your body. They have to do it from remote places now. Contactless sensors in public places will be developed. Natural languages answering robots maybe could be developed. So many different technology. Modelization and prediction is important. So we are going to see new digital services, new norms, and also new behaviors. But one revolution will be in the healthcare, because we are going to continue remote diagnostic and telemedicine. And something that will emerge as a new science is epidemic intelligence, because really we don't want to be surprised by the next epidemic. So epidemic prediction will be moved forward with, of course, the usual suspects like artificial intelligence, deep learning, cloud computing, big data. We need fast and accurate diagnosis, and maybe biotechnology can help to detect our disease, this infectious disease. Governments, they have dilemmas. They have to balance between human rights versus health, utility versus privacy, surveillance state versus utilitarianism, global economy versus self-sufficiency. Also, the governments, they have tough political decisions. In times of crisis, governments, they ask you, do you want me to cut your right leg or your left leg? On which side is the toughest decision? Investments. We have seen the emerging of ESG funds. ESG funds are focusing on environmental, social, and governance evolution, and these funds, investments are based on the threats and the risks that they are facing. So currently, it is the pandemic. Next is the climate change. So what are the challenges which are revealed in 2020? We have an over-optimized supply chain, rigid living and working places. We have lack of proximity to resources. We have unsafe mass transit. And also we have complex systems with single points of failure. So what do we understand? The unthinkable is possible. Globalization can have negative local impact. Our living environment will change. The urban management of the city will change. We will rely more and more on technology, which will change our society and our norms. And we definitively need to be ready for the next pandemic or climate change crisis. So I wish you the best of luck.
Thanks, Philippe. That was excellent. Deborah, back to Belfast again. How are we getting prepared for the future, and what are your plans supporting innovation and investments into the city?
Thank you, Sue. Yes, well, the great news is there is fantastic leadership in our city, and we're not leaving anything to luck. And city partners have come together to put these ambitious plans for the future. They've been underway for the past 2 years. And we will face many of the dilemmas that have been outlined by Philippe. But COVID has brought a degree of clarity and affirmation that the plans that have been in development are the right plans. And we want to accelerate our resilience agenda and our digital innovation strategy. And one of the catalysts for this programme is the Belfast Region City Deal, with 6 council areas in the Belfast region coming together to deliver a £1 billion regional city deal. It will have co-investment from central government, local authorities, universities, and co-investment from city partners and private sector as well. And it also seeks to maximise other significant investments already planned for the city and the region. There are 22 major programmes, and one of those programmes is the Digital Innovation Programme itself. And that sees the development of a regional digital innovation ecosystem spanning the 6 council areas, bringing together a range of university centres of excellence, investing in world-class technologies and infrastructure, and setting in place a collaborative ecosystem to support the needs and demands of our businesses and industry, as well as solving our grand challenges. And there are many programmes, as I've said, across these pillars, but at the heart of it is the innovation ecosystem itself. And one of the key projects to highlight is the 5G Smart District. And here we see this as a microcosm of the full city, where we can test out solutions to many of the issues that you have just heard about for the city going forward. There are 3 zones in the Smart District itself. So an innovation district, this will be an area for a world-class hub for innovation, for research, and for entrepreneurialism. And it will focus on developing and supporting business clusters in health tech, fintech, and clean tech. And it includes a range of new university centres of excellence, an AI centre for innovation, centres for health technologies and clinical trials, and advanced manufacturing centre, and also a next generation media screen and media centre. And the second area within our Smart District is a smart green port. And Belfast Harbour is the 2nd largest port on the island of Ireland and handles over 70% of Northern Ireland's trade and 20% of that of the entire island of Ireland. It's a 2,000-acre harbour estate. It's the largest in the UK, and it is an economic hub for the region. And it's home to over 760 businesses and the largest film studios in the UK outside Pinewood Studios. So they will be making substantial investments in their harbour infrastructure and in digital and cutting edge technologies. And this will serve as a global demonstrator as Belfast Harbour aims to become the smartest regional port in the world. And then we have the Smart City Core itself. And we are developing this as a low regulatory environment for the city to be able to test new solutions, new services, new ways of doing things, but in real life scenarios. And to be able then to develop a policy around that, to support commercialisation, to be able to test, deploy, and scale up quickly. And within the Smart District, there will be a focus on developing a healthy and sustainable environment and the ability to quickly respond to changing circumstances, to test out these new ideas according to McKinsey and other world thought leaders. This is going to be critical for our cities going forward. The ability to very quickly develop and respond in an agile fashion to whatever the future throws at us. And the Smart District provides the environment to do just that. So just to make this a bit more real and to outline 3 of our lighthouse projects, as we're calling them, which have been created with cross-sector participation. And the first project is focusing on the future of urban residential living, a smart, healthy neighbourhood, and something that has taken on particular resonance with the advent of COVID. We want to grow sustainable neighbourhoods that support a healthy living environment for all generations. And this is a hugely exciting area for research, as well as offering a rich opportunity for investment by our developers and by digital companies, and particularly those in life and health sciences sector. So we see projects such as assisting living projects using telemonitoring, and of course prediction is very important, as Philippe has also outlined. And there's the opportunity here for our planners, our urban regeneration specialists, our developers, researchers, and also the involvement of citizens to be able to develop this environment and to not only explore new solutions for smart neighbourhoods, but to attract co-investment. And there's strong connections with this programme as well, and in terms of the new centres of excellence that are being developed also, a new Global Institute for Innovation focusing on AI and big data, and also a new connected health centre and a centre for clinical trials. So there will be real integration and working across these programmes and projects. And we see then this as being a real innovation multiplier for the digital transformation of our city. The second project I want to draw your attention to is the focus on building or putting in place, I suppose, the building blocks for a sustainable energy ecosystem at the district level, city level, and also the regional level. And we're proposing an investment in shared infrastructure that will support the growth of a hydrogen network. And the aim is to adopt hydrogen as an energy vector. It can be used to store currently curtailed wind farm generated electricity. It could be used as a fuel for decarbonising public transport fleet. And it could be used to generate oxygen to bring about efficiencies, for example, in the likes of the wastewater treatment plant. And the substantial waste heat in that production process can be used for district heating for either homes or for industry. And there's substantial private sector interest in this, but the key to this is making it work and working cross-sector and the joint investment in the shared infrastructure. And so this project has the potential to grow jobs across a range of skill levels, to support new businesses and a new energy economy, and at the same time directly address some of our decarbonisation challenges as well. The third one to mention, and Philippe has also talked about this, is smart mobility. So this project recognises the criticality of urban mobility for the economic and environmental development of our city. It's going to be a major challenge during this recovery period. And we have talked to many partners, and the fact is that the centrality of data was a recurring issue for most of our conversations. And whether it's looking at the future of planning for mobility or whether it's developing mobility projects and services, partners have been reiterating the fact that they do not have access to data and the range of data needed to transform mobility in our city. So at the heart of this project is the development of a digital twin that brings together all forms of mobility to support the city and rethinking mobility. And it has the enthusiastic backing of government departments and a range of partners, and interestingly, from many data science businesses and startups who see this as an opportunity to build services in a growing market. And of course, critical to making the smart district happen is setting in place and investing along with industry in next generation connectivity and advanced wireless networks, and rolling out Internet of Things networks for urban services, and 5G network densification to support Industry 4.0, and setting in place a unique data platform and architecture for infrastructure and data sharing. But we know from history that investing in infrastructure isn't enough to bring about transformation. We need to drive innovation activity, and led by Belfast's new Digital Innovation Commissioner, we're developing a significant £55 million challenge fund to drive that activity and to help generate innovative solutions to these challenges. So all of these things together are already encouraging new forms of collaboration cross-sector. And finally, just to say that alongside delivering these programs, it's really important that we drive an inclusive skills agenda. And that will run from raising awareness of data-driven technologies that impact our everyday lives, right through to offering on-ramps to more formalized education and training, and also business support. So that was a bit of a whirlwind tour of some of the things that are coming down the line. Thank you, Sue.
Oh, that's excellent, Deborah. Thank you so much. It's really great to hear all the fantastic work that's going in across so many sectors and parts of our life in Belfast. It's wonderful to hear all of the insights from you. We have a few minutes left for questions. So we had asked our alumni community prior to the event just to drop across some questions by email. So Philippe, we have one, a reflection from you. Do you think that our model of the smart city was adopted? And what are your thoughts on Smart Belfast?
So in the past, we didn't know how epidemics were spreading. So, now we can identify, we can test, we can track, we can isolate people using digital services. So thanks actually to the digital revolution, which is supported by the smart city model, it helps to prevent and fight back faster than we ever had in our history. So the model of the smart city works very well, but still it needs to evolve. Then you're asking about my thoughts on the smart city of Belfast. Well, it is truly a smart and sustainable city. By leveraging the digital revolution, Belfast actually makes sure that there is a social balance, an economic prosperity for the city, and also a healthy environment in the city. Belfast City Council has invested in a Smart Belfast program, and this program actually is creating the ground, the ecosystem to foster innovation and to inspire inventors and entrepreneurs to create the city of the future. It has actually some similarities with the program in Singapore, like driving, collaborating innovations across all the sectors of the city. And in terms of resilience to future crises, Belfast has launched projects like the Smart Healthy Neighborhood, the Sustainable Energy Focus, and also the Smart Mobility Project that were mentioned by Deborah. So I believe that the Belfast is getting ready for the next pandemic or the next climate change crisis. Good luck.
Excellent. Deborah, we have time for one question from you. You talked earlier about collaborative innovation and outlined some very ambitious plans that Belfast has for the future. What are the key things that need to happen at city level to make the plans a success?
Yes, so very briefly, of course, city leadership is really important, and that's something that we do have in our city. The voice of industry must be clearly heard to drive the development of these projects. And we have, I mentioned earlier, we have appointed a new digital commissioner in Dr. Jane Brady, and we're delighted to be working with Jane, who has a really impressive track record on a personal level, working with industry and in the private sector. And she is really helping to articulate industry needs, but also drive our strategy at the highest level of government. Obviously, collaboration, investing in infrastructure, focusing on challenges, developing skills, all of these things are important. But one of the key things is that the citizen's voice must be heard. And one of the projects that we have in our programme is to include a citizen office for data analytics, which will focus on grassroots capacity building, co-design and delivery, and of course putting citizens at the helm and in charge of their own data and what and when to get involved in some of these data programs.
Excellent, Deborah. Thank you for that. Philippe, we have time just for one more question. A question that was posed during the week. Will we leave city centres and move to the countryside?
Well, have your grandparents ever told you about the Spanish flu in 1918? Probably not. Actually, we are not even studying this event at schools, and we have even forgotten them. So today, yes, people want to live to the countryside, but very naturally, after the COVID-19 crisis will be ended, they will come back and they will forget, thinking that it will not happen again. That was like that in the past. So they will come back, don't worry.
Deborah, one more question. What about the data aspects of all of the innovation that's going on? How are you addressing the sharing of citizens' data?
Yes, well, look, one of the important things is to ensure that we develop trust with our citizens. We're working with several partners on the development of an ethical data framework, which really puts citizens, as I previously said, in control of their data. And through this approach, we will establish a way in which researchers, businesses, can work easily and swiftly with cohorts of citizens to obtain data to support these projects going forward. So the success of the project will be dependent on the active, informed participation of the citizens, and CODA, or the Citizen of Office Driven Analytics, will seek to support this capability building.
Excellent. We're almost out of time, so I think if we can have a final word from you, Philippe, and Deborah. Deborah, if you'd like to give us just a final thoughts on.
Okay, so I would say that, look, you know, our city just has so much talent, it has so much ambition, and we must ensure that technology doesn't lead the city, but that technology is used to inspire our businesses, our entrepreneurs, our researchers, and that it's focused on improving the health of our economy and also the quality of life for our citizens.
Excellent. And Philippe, final thoughts from yourself?
I would say the more we know about cities, about pandemics, the more we change our cities. And the more we change our cities, the more we change ourselves.
That's very true.
Very good.
Philippe and Deborah, thank you so much for today, for joining us and sharing your insights into the effects the pandemic has had in our cities and the opportunities presented to us. As I said earlier, it's really inspiring to see the work being done here in Belfast to embrace and scale up innovation and smart technologies to improve the environment and the climate for future generations. So thanks to you all for joining the webinar. We hope you enjoyed it. Please do come back and join us in January. We have a special masterclass session with our program director, Enda Young, who will be leading a masterclass, which is a taster session for a new program that will be coming in the spring, conflict resolution and mediation strategies for organizations. That's on the 26th of January, and you can book through our website. Today's video will be posted a little bit later on our website and on our YouTube channel. So do stay in touch with us on LinkedIn and Twitter, and love to hear your feedback. And thank you very much, and have a great day, everyone.
Thank you, Sue.
Thank
you. Pleasure.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Thanks.